Number 1 here in this best of 7 between Vortix and Hut. We shall see who prevails in the Mirror of the French.
All right, let's get into it, Lidicor. I can hear the sheep clanging away. I can hear the scout roaming around. And of course, I can hear the French baguette clanging with the Frenchmen. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 1 in your first August monthly final. This is a best of 7, which the UI would currently not have you believe. It is a French mirror. And we've got 2 of the world's best players vying for a final golden ticket at that table in Heidelberg. Spawning in on the north side of the map, playing as the French. In the color red, it's Hut.
And down south. Oh yeah, go ahead.
We'll zoom in on the towns. We'll zoom in on the town center. There we go. Oh, there we go. All right, we're in. All right, who we got down south, Lidicor?
Down south, it is going to be Vortix leading the weekly points in the EGC Road to Red Bull Wololo series, but wanting to get himself a ticket to Heidelberg a little sooner than the end of September. And mon Dieu, the stakes are high in here. Both of these players trying to get the ticket into Heidelberg. One win in this best of 7 is going to put you ahead so much compared to your opponent.
And the big thing about the best of 7 is that it is not just that 1 game. It's not that 3 games. It's not that 5 games. So it really becomes a whole strategy, planning what civilizations you're going to play and where you're going to play them. Each player's got 3 home maps. There's a total of 7 games that could happen. Each player's banned out a civ. Both guys have banned out the Mongols, which means that you must play all the remaining civs if it goes the distance. So you better make sure that your strategy is sound with regard to picking as well as with regard to playing.
Exactly, it's a different story than best of 3s, because you really have to plan ahead and assign each of your civilizations preemptively to specific maps. You might have some flexibility, but as you pointed out, it requires a much deeper strategy when it comes to planning your game plan for the entire set, not just specific 1 or 2 games like you would do in best of 3s. But it also means that, as you said, no excuses. You have to be able to play each of your civilizations at a reasonable level, or possibly risk losing 1 or 2 games very easily with essentially a civilization that you consider a throwaway civ because you're not familiar with.
And that's exactly it. Often we do see players look to use a quote-unquote throwaway civilization. You know, it might be that you win the first game and you're like, all right, well, I've won the first game, so I'm doing decent. I'm going to, in the second game, I'm just going to throw away my worst civ and hope that he picks his best civ. And then that way you can really start to make it a little bit easier for you in the long run. And I actually remember watching a Marine Lord series where he did that. He threw away his China against a Delhi, and he beat the Delhi. I'm like, you're crazy. I can't believe it. But speaking of crazy, look here. It is the School of Cavalry. No surprises there. Both sides going for the School of Cavalry. I mean, this is what you expect, right, Lidicor? Like, I don't think we've ever seen the other landmark ever.
I beg to differ. Viper has played it once, maybe an no, it wasn't M4C qualifiers, but there was an event where Viper played the Chamber of Commerce in Arabia. Well, with the results that you would expect, he got smashed in the face.
He was throwing away the French. Let's just put it that way. Oh, jeez. Yeah, look, I suspect there may be a patch in the future where the French have options outside the School of Cavalry, but look, it's a couple of years away. Let's just put it that way.
I mean, you also have to take a look at theme games, right? Because it's one thing that we are always seeing 1v1s, but especially team game ranked becoming a reality possibly for Season 3 as we are promised. Suddenly, Chamber of Commerce could be a little bit more realistic than before. Is it going to be something that you see in more than like 1 out of 50 games? Possibly not. But it's going to get a little bit more relevant with Season 3 and possibly team game ranked than it is right now. Because as you said, in 1v1s, it's kind of suicidal to go for that landmark.
Yeah, definitely is. Well, let's take a look and see what we've got going on here, because it looks like both players are mirroring each other up until this point. We've got the early wheelbarrows coming through for both guys. We've also got double scout opening, so no real surprises so far. Lidicor, are you expecting we'll see double TC out of both of these guys?
I think yes. It's more about the timing. The thing is that you have to expect your opponent going for a second TC nowadays with the French, especially because you have to expand towards these pocket ecos, towards the exposed food. You're going to be playing a very food-heavy composition, so you will have to expand anyways. Might as well do it for the second TC. So you have to expect your opponent to go for a second TC, which means that you also have to think about it for yourself.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed is that we are typically seeing is players looking to go for 1, maybe 2 nights, and then straight into that second town center. So I suspect it's going to be all about denying that second town center, but looking to get a little bit on the action here. Scouts early. trying to fight off each other. No scouts going down just yet, which will mean that players will have the ability to defend against the knights. The most common thing that you will see players do is leave the scout. Oh, got to be so careful. How much health is that knight or that scout on? It looks like it might be one hit away from death.
Yeah, it's a delicate micro, right? Because you want to keep your scouts alive, because you need to keep track of the enemy. That's the key thing here. Part of the reason why they're both playing with 2 scouts is because you want to use one of the scouts to accompany your knights to seek targets, and you possibly want to either keep one back home to see which direction the enemy knights are coming from, or to take a look at the enemy base and see any changes coming up in the build, whether he's adding spearmen, whether he's moving on to stone for extra TCs, or whether he's possibly even aging up.
Well, we got ourselves a little bit of knight-on-knight action. And, oh my lord, take a look at this. Hut going with the classic. I've never seen a wall like this before. Oh, and she gets a quick one, but it's not going to work. The villager gets hit. It looks like it's going to be -1 for Hut early on in this game. Things already looking good for Vortix. It's a cute little wall, but it's not going to be cute enough today, Lidicor.
Oh, and I love the body block as well from Hut. He did everything he could to save that villager. Pulled the villagers in front of the knight, so the knight can't hit the villager, but the sword swung a little faster. And in the end, villager fell. And as you see, Vortix already trying to build on that small lead that he has built up with that, working towards the second TC. Knight numbers also in the favor. Actually, it's rather even right now, but look at that. 1 scout being lost on both sides.
Yeah, and this is where it gets a little bit more difficult. So one of the things that Vortix Hut could have done was the quick walls come up. The quick walls keep coming up. It looks like he's okay. Beautiful. And now I guess the alternative is that he also looks to put a gate down on one of these walls so he can just do a little bit of a switcheroo. Manages to split one off. He's going to be able to run behind the wall. And now we've got more quick walls coming through.
Look at that. That is beautiful. That knight just can't find a target, and I love this from Hut. It's a rather big investment, but it pays for its price so fast, especially because the knight even gets taken down by the TC.
That's big. I mean, what would you rather? You know, -1 villager or -1 knight? And when it's a French knight, I tell you what, it feels pretty damn important, because losing that knight means that you've lost a full health knight in 5 minutes time.
Exactly. It's easily losing 1 knight being worse than losing 1 villager, especially because both players will be playing 2 TCs at minimum. So that 1 villager is rather insignificant compared to that 1 knight, because this means that Hut right now has the knight number advantage, and that could come into play later on. I love how Hut is playing this one so far. Getting up those walls, it's a bit of an investment, but the safety it provides is massive, and that's the priority in a matchup like this.
Big charges coming in. One of those knights getting down pretty low is going to be able to have the advantage, and we do see an outpost coming up for Vortix to defend. So whilst we've had the 100 wood that's been used on this outpost down here, we've also had the wood used on the other side. Bit of a forward TC coming in as well for Hut. And we've got survival techniques. I'm not sure who that is for, but we've got survival techniques coming through for one of the players here, which is something that you don't often see, a technology that's rarely used. It's going to be Hut going with the survival techniques. I love it. Is this it? Is this the survival technique meta that we are beginning to see, Lidicor?
It's such a good upgrade. It has recently been buffed, but the most important thing is that for a French, you even have a discount. For a moment, we could see that it was like 17 wood and 52 gold. Almost an insignificant cost at this point, but the gather rate increase that you get on the hunt is massive. So I love this one for Hut. It's going to make his food eco so much better than it is for Vortix, and he's expanding with the second TC towards the hunt, so he's going to benefit from that hunt even more. And if he wants to go for the boars in the future, it could be even better, but instead, he's going for villager kills.
Yes, and it looks like he may have gotten one down there. It's a bit difficult to see.
Yeah.
But, yeah, more knights coming in. He's doing a great job here, so able to divert attention over towards his enemy side of the map, and that's exactly what he wants to do. But the villager count starting to pull ahead for Vortix. He's up 6 villagers at the moment, which is quite a fair bit.
Yeah, obviously, Hut did lose 1 villager at the beginning, and the second TC was much faster for Vortix. On the other hand, as you said, right now Hut is the aggressor, so he could cut into that eco deficit, and let's keep in mind, there's also survival techniques for Hut to compensate a little bit with the gather rate.
Yeah, let's look to see if he pushes out towards the boar. This is a theory that I've got, is that, you know, he who takes the boar wins the game. You know, it's a classic, you know, you control the spice, you control the world. You control the boar, you control the world, that type of thing. So I guess the next question I've got for you, Lidicor, is do you think we'll see a spearman transition by one of these two players?
Usually it's not advised that you go for a spearman transition here, simply because then you lose out on mobility. usually it's the player going for Spearman that is losing the Knight War. So at one point, someone has to pivot away when he starts falling behind in Knight numbers, but it's usually not something that you're willingly wanting to do, because the moment you go for Spearman, you're essentially opening up a lot of opportunities. You're going to allow your opponent to start adding archers, and later on, just use those ranges to make arbaletier. And also, more importantly, it's the fact that you lose out on the mobility.
Well, Vortix lost his second scout now. A couple of knights moving in on this south stable. More stables going up for him as well. Looks like we've got 3 for Vortix and 2 for Hut. So you are correct in that it is just going to be stables for now. So this matchup definitely following that trend in the meta that it's double town center into heavy, heavy knights.
Exactly. You just can't miss out on the knight numbers. Spearmen are just too slow. You need to keep pumping out knights. And so far, both players are doing that. But I also love how Hut took his time and added an extra scout. He lost one before, but he used his stable or his School of Cavalry to add the second one because vision is so important. If we can take a look at Vortix's POV, he's playing blind right now, and it leaves him quite vulnerable.
Yeah, all right. Well, now a little bit of a push out coming with some villagers over on that west side of the base of Vortix. So might be looking to expand out with an outpost, I suspect. But now looking to fight around this board. We've got more knights coming out for Hut. Looking to try and get a charge off. That's a triple charge right there. Takes out the first knight. Second knight going to have to run for it. Heading towards his friends. He's got no line of sight around the corner. The charge comes through the... Whoa, let me out. You can see the scout trying to work its way to the back to try and take the damage. He sacrificed himself for the cause.
What a hero. Gotta love that.
Wow. I mean, you would rather lose a scout than lose a knight, wouldn't you? It's a difference between 100%. 240 and 70 resources. But now more charges coming through. It's going to be Hut losing a knight now. The knight number's still looking in favor of Vortix. But for the moment, he's got more reinforcements coming in. It's going to be a barracks getting thrown down from Hut. Also, some spearmen getting in on the action. Beautiful little surround he's got in here. It's right next to the barracks. The town center going to be funneling in a couple more units as well. Look at the villagers that are on the wood line. This could be the end of Hut's villager line. But fortunately, it looks like he only loses one in there. Still those spearmen as well as the knights chasing these guys around. And this could be bad for Vortix.
It is bad for Vortix. As you said, losing a knight for the price of a villager is not worth it. Look at that. Villager difference 3 between the two players, but now the knight difference is going to start growing, especially once you lose those knights for Vortix. He's trying to get out of this one, and Hut trying to block him away from escaping. At least for the time being, Hut is capped back at home, and Vortix once again with a chance to kill some villagers on the front.
Yeah, it looks like the charge does come through. He's able to get the villagers inside the town center. I'm not sure if we've got the textiles upgrade for either of these players just yet, but it looked like that villager did tank a fair bit of damage. And now the charges coming in. Big charges from that south side. Another knight goes down. He's doing a very decent job of just keeping up with these knights and chasing them away. The knight count starting to drop down for Vortix. He's on 8 knights, and now we've got archers being mixed in for him. So it's going to be that classic archer cavalry versus knight spear.
He saw the first spearman, he immediately went towards the archers. Both of these players were just waiting for the other to blink, waiting for the other to deviate from the knight's play, and the moment Hut did that, Vortix replied with the addition of archers. He has to be careful though, because knights and spearmen, especially if the spearman numbers are good, those will easily devastate those archers. So you gotta be careful here, especially if you don't have a strong front line for Vortix. He still has 11 knights, but many of them are heavily damaged.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, he who controls the boar controls the world. And both players control a boar each, so both players control the world for now. But very interesting. I love the way that Hut is, when he's expanding out here, is also doing double outposts to guarantee that none of those villagers will die. He'll be able to get them safely inside the outpost, hopefully. And now we actually see Vortix adding in a second outpost as well. He's like, you know what? I feel like I'm behind on the knights, so I'm just going to add a second outpost just to be safe. And that's exactly what he does. Very, very smart.
He also saw Hut move out of his base, so he knows that the knights are coming from one direction. He needs a second tower. And look at that. The town center is just left alone here. He could flirt with the idea of torching this down even.
Yeah, and it looks like he might be doing that. He's got pretty decent numbers. Now, Vortix on the other side has flipped it with regard to the knights. But remember, in the situation things go bad here for Hut, he can just run away. And it looks like that's what he might be able to do. Actually going to be charging out. He's managed to get away about 6 of those knights away with one of his knights towards the north of that forest. But manages to draw a lot of units out here, and Vortix still committing heavily to archers.
Yeah, the thing is that Vortix has to keep this town center alive, because it's not just the fact that losing it would be a disaster, it's also the fact that he's continuously produces villagers here, so the moment they pop out, they will be killed by the knights. He needed to pull his forces out there, and this is a pretty good diversion here by Hut, forcing his opponent to switch to the right side, and also at the same time spotting how many archers his opponent has. So now he has a pretty good idea of what he's facing military-wise from Vortix.
Players are now continuing to add in more and more villages. We can now see Vortix up to 72, Hut on 66. And remember, the longer this feudal goes, the more likely it is that we're going to see that Royal Institute in the transition period. Players are yet to really think about going to castle, though Vortix is definitely flirting with the idea as he's got more than enough, or more than halfway there. And look at the income that he's got, 1,700 food a minute.
Yeah, he can afford to do this because he's the aggressor right now. Hut is defending. If Vortix was defending, he couldn't afford sacrificing all those resources for castle, and you see, the moment he's forced back from the base of Hut, he's going to think twice and just invest those resources again into army. You get the feel that whoever tries to go to castle age first could easily lose the game.
Yeah, that's definitely the case when it comes to matchups like this. So much mobility with these knights. You're able to move over from your side of the map to the enemy side very, very quickly. Nice little raid, though, coming in from Hut on the backside. He's down to 3 villages difference between these two players now, and the knight numbers continue to increase. Now, one of the factors to consider is in this matchup, the guy with the archers has mitigating returns on his archers. What does that mean? It means that if you've got 17 archers or if you've got 40 archers, you're still typically going to be getting the same result. Now, archers, who cares about archers? We got knight-on-knight action, Lidicor. Spears on the backline doing a decent job. The knight's going to be looking to try and clean up as many archers as they can. And still, at the same time, the spears looking to try and find a way in. He's looking to pick them off. Down to 8 spears on this front line, 15 archers on the back. He's trying his best to climb through it, but Vortix knight numbers are starting to look a little bit grim, down to 12 knights. Things aren't looking good for him. The Australian sensation trying to pull one up and looking pretty decent as he does it. Vortix, though, gonna have to retreat away from this position. The knight numbers are too damn strong.
He was just unable to focus down the spearman. Look at that, the follow-up could be devastating here for Vortix. Has to stand and fight, he can't sacrifice the archers. And even if he does, he might not be able to save the gold miners. Vortix could be in big trouble here, floating 1,000 wood, or food actually, but lacking the gold to supply the field with more and more knights, down to just 5 of them. And that's what you were talking about. The archers, the moment the spearmen are gone, they're useless. And suddenly, Vortix is just in a world of trouble.
Yeah, the big issue that you're going to have is, as the archers, typically just 10 archers are all you're going to need to kill those spearmen. And that's it. But with regard to the spears, you can have 50 spears and they're all fighting, they're all attacking at the same time, and they're all doing huge amounts of damage, whereas the archers, they're typically going to be overkilling units, and that's something you want to avoid. But now we see both players looking to add in more barracks. Hut says, well, hold on a minute, those spears seem to do pretty well, let's get more of those. You know, it's the classic Anakin pod racing, like, spinning's a good trick, like, yeah, spearmen are a good trick as well.
You know what else could be a good trick? Maybe a third TC. Hut feels confident about this one. He knows he has taken a very good engagement and now he has the raiding potential. So he could sneak a third town center up behind this one. He's still massively ahead with the knight numbers, so he's gonna have much better chances of raiding than his opponent does.
Yeah, things are starting to look very grim though for Vortix. The population difference between these two isn't that big. But take a look at the knight difference, and that is the win condition in any matchup involving the French in the feudal age. If you've got the knights, you can win the game, because if you steamroll the enemy and take out their army, there's pretty much no way that they can come back from it. And look at the knights that are dead down on the ground there. Something that we missed a little bit earlier. There's 4 or 5 knights that just went down from Vortix. This is looking more and more like a Hut win. He's up 20 knights in this matchup. His enemy right now, Vortix, is going to need at least 40 to 50 spears just to deal with that.
And a concern here is that Vortix can't really push this one. He's got spears and archers, congratulations, but Hut can also make some spears, he can make some archers and hold this off just enough to be able to detach the knights and raid with them. But instead he wants to take a direct engagement here, running into the spearman.
Yeah, but he's got so many damn knights, he doesn't even care about it. You can see the spearmen also going to be looking to back him up on the other side. Villagers running for their lives, jumping into that outpost, are going to provide some covering fire, but Hut has got so many damn knights here. I don't think there's any chance he's able to hold this. The Australian sensation looking to clean house right now in this first game in the series. The best of 7 grand finals of August monthly could finish right here, that first game. Lidicor is looking like he might hold on for the moment, Vortix is, but there's so many damn knights.
And keep in mind the gold mine has been denied from Vortix. Hut consciously took this engagement, maybe a suboptimal engagement it was against the Spearman, but he managed to grind down the numbers of Vortix's Spearman quite heavily. And keep in mind that now he's banking up resources and he's also in the middle of a farm transition. So he's buffering up his opponent's aggression with this counterattack essentially to buy him some time to make the transition to farms and then have a rejuvenated attack while also banking up resources for Castle Age, something that Vortix simply can't afford to do right now.
Now it looks like we might have the triple composition coming out from Hut. He's looking to go into archers with spears and those knights, but at the same time, both players looking out or looking like they might be running out of food. You mentioned earlier the farm transition coming through from Vortix. I suspect any minute now we'll see the same thing coming through from Hut.
Hut is doing something very smart as well. He's walling himself up. He wants to ensure that he doesn't throw away this game because now he has a good lead over his opponent and he wants to ensure that there is no counterattack for Vortix that could come into fruition. It's not like Vortix has that many knights to do that damage with, but still, being safe here is also going to allow him to constantly be the aggressor and always have a fallback option if he needs to retreat, while also buffering up aggression against the possible Castle Age up that he's about to do.
Really smart move here from Hut, attacking on this second town center. The villagers, he tried to click them inside the TC. They decided they were going to repair. Hut could easily commit to this town center. If he wanted to take this out, he could. He could have taken it out in 3 or 4 swings. Looks like the spearmen are still yet to remember, but it looks like Hut doesn't want to get trapped. He's going age 3 right now, and the big factor here is going to be that Royal Institute. Let's take a look and see if he's done it or not. I think he'd be a madman not to have. We'll try and find it. There it is coming down. It is indeed the Royal Institute. Counterattack also coming in on that south wall. You can see he's got a couple of units on the line looking to try and break through. Indeed, they're going to be able to get through. That wall yet to be built.
It ain't much, but it's honest work, right? Like 2 knights coming in here. That's all that Vortix has when it comes to cavalry. They're going to try to do some damage here. The only value that they might find for themselves is that they might find that Hut is aging up. Because it looks like it's going to be a full feudal pressure coming in from Vortix. If Hut can get up and get a couple of men-at-arms out, he can hold this off until the veterancy upgrade comes in for the knights and until Royal Bloodlines comes in.
Yeah, Royal Bloodlines might be a way off. He's only got 165 gold in the bank, and now we see him also looking to drop down a monastery back here. So many knights. If you've ever seen, I mean, this is an overreaction to say the least.
Yep.
A lot of units pushing forward, though. You'll expect to see, veteran knights or, veteran royal knights now coming through. This is going to be the defense that Hut needs. If he's able to defend this next attack, then it is almost 100% chance for victory. We can see the military pop looking pretty decent for Vortix. But do consider the fact that these are going to be veteran Royal Knights, pretty much fully upgraded, against only 32 of the spears that are feudal age spears.
And if you take a look at the archer numbers, Hut is behind, but he's going to have the veteran archers as well. The knights will have cantled settles. So if he can just slow this down a tiny bit, buy himself some more time to get 5 more archers out, he's going to have enough to hold this off. And you see, he's going to flank around with the knights. He's not going to take the direct engagements. Wants to pick off the spearmen first before charging in.
Yeah, we've got Candled Saddles now coming through. A couple of knights over on the west side looking for a charge through. At the same time, the battering rams looking to get surrounded. He might be able to pick these ones off and stall out the push even more. There's so many units here, though. Archer's going to have to fall back. They're looking to focus down the spears on the front line. Only a handful of knights continue here. And now the reinforcement's going to be coming through. There's so damn many knights for Hut right now. The Australian sensation swooping down on the archers below him. All the spears getting completely cleaned up. And now you learn the true power of the French, he says to his enemy, who was also playing French, but has just failed to utilize the knight in such serious numbers. And surely good game gets called any second here, Lidicor.
Indeed, there it is. Marvelous fight to close the game out with for Hut. He waited with the knights until the Candle Cells upgrade came in and more importantly, sacrificed the archers. He kept the front line with the archers so that the spearmen focused them. That meant the knights could flank around and not a single spearman braced his spear against them. The flank was perfect. The timing of the Castle Age was great. And with that, Hut takes game number 1 against an opponent against whom he has never won a set before in competitive Age of Empires 4.